Welcome inside the Austin Bruins show on AM 1480, KAUS, and MyAustinMinnesota.com. Your inside look at the Austin Bruins, including all the latest news, notes, and stories from Riverside Arena and beyond. Here's your host, TJ Chillot.
Good afternoon, Mower County. My name is TJ Chillot, and welcome inside the Austin Bruins show. They're having us back. We did a great job last week. We really enjoyed being here, and they're having us back. So we're here for episode number 2. My name is TJ Chillot, voice of the Austin Bruins, and here as a special guest co-host, I told you guys I'm going to have somebody new every single week, is one of the newest commits on the Austin Bruins team. Let's give a car round of applause to Garrett Dahm. Garrett, welcome in, man. First time on the radio, huh?
Yeah, it's my first time ever, so it'll be good.
This is the second week in a row I've had a newbie. Keenan had never been on the radio for an extended period of time either last week, so this is fun. And obviously, I kind of just alluded to it here a second ago, and that's kind of the big news, not only surrounding you, but surrounding the Bruins so far this week is your commitment to Mercyhurst University. And I wanted to kick everything off by talking to you a little bit about that. And those of you who are out there and read the article about Garrett and his commitment to Mercyhurst know some of the reasoning, why he chose Mercyhurst. But for those of you who haven't heard the opportunity, let's start there. I mean, walk me through what that's like. I never went to a college, let alone, be selected out of, some of these supreme players to go to a college and they say, hey, we want you. Can you please come here? What's that like from the get-go? I mean, how did you go through that process and end up landing on Mercyhurst?
Right. So Tom Upton is the assistant coach there at Mercyhurst, and he ended up actually drafting me in the USHL 2 years ago, which was my second year of 16s out of St. Louis Blues AAA organization. So he's seen me throughout a long period of time, and then he took a job at Mercyhurst, and he's followed me all along there. And then earlier this year, he reached out to me and said that he likes how I play and things along those lines. So he came out to Bismarck and saw how I played there and liked the way I played. So he offered me to come out there on a visit. So I went out there 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and it was a great fit. I loved everything about it. I got to sit in on a video with the team. I got to sit in on a practice with the team. So I loved everything about it. Their coaches are super nice and very open to having me out there and making me an offer. And it was something that I've wanted to do. It's been a lifelong dream for my whole life to play Division I hockey. So it was great, and it was a really good fit for me.
So when you talk about him coming out to Bismarck, is that something, are you aware that he's there, or is that something that's completely under the radar and they don't want to give you any heads up because they want to see you like in a natural form? Or do you kind of know that he's there and, you're going to play a little bit harder because you got that going on? What's that like?
Right. So sometimes they don't tell me anything if they're coming or not, but this weekend he actually did because we had been talking before. And he said that he wanted to come out and watch me. So with this weekend at Bismarck, they were on the holiday break, and we just got back. So it was our first weekend back from holiday break, and he had an off weekend with his team. So he came out there and watched me, and he actually told me that time that he was going to be there. So
did you play a little nervous, or did you just go out and do your thing?
No, I was not nervous at all. I mean, that's what it's all about, is playing in front of scouts to get to the next level. So you got to play like that every single night.
Yeah, one thing that actually Keenan and I talked about last week was just how small, the hockey world is. And here it is in the flesh, proof of that. Someone that drafted you into the USHL ends up moving, and he moves to Pennsylvania of all places, and that's where you end up going to college. And we talked about how one little thing like that, one tiny ripple, can change the entire course. We were talking about him and how his parents let him go up to Canada, as a youngster and play junior hockey there, and how he's now a coach. And if maybe they had ever said no, he'd be, a lawyer or a doctor or whatever it was that he's going to be. So it's definitely a really small thing. And I want to kind of turn the page because now you're the 7th player on this Bruins roster who has committed now, joining your fellow teammates, Dylan Davies, RPI, Brett Miller, RPI, and some of these other guys who have committed. What does that say for the program? And I mean, how Coach Howard and how the Austin Bruins organization really sets you guys up for success in the next level in D1 hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows a lot. Steve and Keenan both put in a lot of work for us and reach out to coaches for us. And I think with the practices, they get us ready for the weekend to play our best 2 games that weekend with the scouts in the stands. And I also think the Central Division is one that is very key to getting to the next level. I mean, some people say it's the most like college hockey, Division I college hockey there is out there. So it's a really good league, night in, night out. So it's a great fit.
It's a tough division. I mean, we've been talking about that, I think, on these airways since I even came in with the Bruins, whether I was talking on Mower County Sports Live or what have you, just the difficulty in the level of this division. And when we say that, any team can beat any team it doesn't matter on any given night. And right now the Bruins got a crucial point last weekend against Aberdeen, moving on to Minot. One thing I want to ask you from the player side is, obviously I'm on the bus with you guys and I see some of the fun shenanigans that go on in the back, and you guys really seem to bond on the road. Do you think that kind of plays into why the Bruins are so good on the road this season? I mean, it's been much better on the road than at home, unfortunately, for the fans here in Austin. But do you think that has something to do with it, just the camaraderie and the shenanigans and the antics you guys get up to?
Right, I think it does a little bit. We sit there probably for the first hour before everybody starts taking a nap or something, but we all sit there and talk to one another and talk about the other team and talk about other players in the league. So I think it's a really good time for us to bond and get ready for the 2 games that weekend.
Yeah, and this weekend it's going to be a long ride. I mean, 9 hours out to Minot, so there's going to be plenty of chatting and plenty of talking and things along those lines. It's a true brotherhood type atmosphere. I mean, when you talk about kids who right now, you're 18 years old, you'd probably be in your senior year of high school.
I graduated last year.
You graduated last year? Okay. So you talk about, usually you're hanging out in your hometown and you know everybody that you grew up with, and everybody here on the Bruins team is just a conglomeration of parts of all over the U.S. So you guys are each other's friends. You guys are each other's brothers, and that's something that's pretty cool. And, thinking about that, I want to talk about where you're from. I mean, you're from Swansea, Illinois, which when I hear Illinois, I think Chicago. I think like everybody else. So before I came in today, I did my research and I Googled that, and I found out that you're actually right outside of St. Louis. As you mentioned, you played for the Blues AAA team. And we were talking before we went on the air. So you're a Blues fan through and through, all sports.
Yep.
Okay. How do you feel about the Rams leaving St. Louis?
That was tough. The fans in St. Louis really liked the Rams, so them moving out to LA was tough. But we still have 2 other teams there, the Cardinals and the Blues, and we like them still, and we support them a lot.
You like them still, so does that mean you don't like the Rams anymore?
Some people don't like the Rams. They don't like the owner, but I still support the Rams.
Okay, so are you rooting for the Rams this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. So am I. I'm an Eagles fan. I can't root for the Saints, not after what just happened. They didn't deserve to win that game, but I'm not going to get caught on that because I could end up talking for the entire hour about that. But moving on a little bit. So when you were playing AAA for the Blues organization, did you know that junior hockey was the way that you wanted to go, or did that just kind of happen organically?
I mean, that just kind of happened. When I was younger, I didn't really know much about it, but later on in my 16th year, and when I got older, I started to gain some knowledge of junior leagues and where I wanted to go to get to Division I. Whenever you're younger, you just want to go straight into college, and it's tough to take some years off, but it really helps you develop and get better for Division I.
And that area is pretty bloated when it comes to talent. I mean, how many guys do we have on our team alone that are from that St. Louis area? I mean, that's pretty much a hockey hotbed right now coming out of the St. Louis area. Was it competitive the entire time? I mean, when you're talking bantams and coming up, I mean, was it always competitive and hard to make the travel teams and hard to be in the upper echelons in that area?
Yeah, it was always very competitive. I mean, there was 1 year and 2 years, or 2016, I think, or 17-year draft, we had 6 players go in the first round from St. Louis in the NHL. So those guys are obviously a little older than us, but the competitiveness for tryouts is it's really hard to make the teams. And actually, my first year of 16s, I ended up not even making the AAA team. So I had to play at a lower level, and that kind of motivated me to go out there the next year and make the Blues again.
And just flipping back a little bit, once you made the Blues team and you were drafted into the USHL. You ended up in Austin. What was your feeling when you were here in Austin? Because you played a handful of games a couple of years ago, played your first full season last year. You're on your second full season. What was that first initial impression like when you got to Austin and you were still a youngster and you were just kind of getting your feet wet in the NAHL and you're playing those handful of games? Would have been the 16-17 season. What was that feeling like for you? Like, did it instantly just kind of hit you and go, you know what? Yeah, this is the spot for me.
Yeah, I loved everything about Austin when I came in. The guys were awesome to me, and there was a different coach back then, but Keenan was still there, and I liked both of them. So I definitely liked the spot here. And during the games, it's a lot faster than AAA speeds and a little more hitting. So you had to get used to that, but I liked it all.
You must have gotten used to it because, I mean, when you talk about your numbers last year, 17-18, you played 51 games, you had 11 total points, 3 goals and 8 assists, and here you are, you played just a little bit more than half of those games through 31 games. You got 25 points. You're third on the team in points with 9 goals and 16 assists. What do you think is really the big attribution in that regard? Was it just you getting comfortable with the game, or do you think you're just more comfortable in the system, things are slowing down for you? What do you think it is?
Yeah, I think a lot of things are slowing down for me. I think when you practice hard and everybody around you practices harder, I think the game situations get slower for you. And whenever you come into a team for your first full season with the new coach and stuff, you have to learn his systems. And I think that being here for 2 years in a row now, it's really stuck in my head, and that I know what I got to do in certain situations. And I think that's a really big part about getting on board, getting points and stuff like that.
What would you say that your role is on the team? I mean, if you had to boil it down and say, I'm this type of guy, what do you think that role is?
I mean, I think I'm a big two-way forward. I think I can play a full 200-foot game. I'm strong in the defensive zone, and then also, like, when we go down to the offensive zone, I can produce and get some points.
Yeah, I love watching you on the PK, to be honest with you. I mean, the way you, Dante Zapata, and Dante Sheriff play the forecheck, it's just relentless, and that's one of the big reasons I feel that the Bruins have such a good power or penalty killing unit this year is because of the way you guys play the forecheck and your face-off skills. I mean, it always seems like, when a crucial face-off is there, it's one of 2 guys, 3 guys, you're one of those guys, go out there, win the face-off, and get the puck down the ice to start the PK, because you drain the clock 20 seconds right, and already you're 10% of the way through the penalty kill. And I think that's one of the other huge keys. So unfortunately, after the loss on Saturday, which, man, talk about an electric atmosphere. Now, you guys really helped in that third period to get 3 goals to tie things up and make things interesting. Would you say that was probably one of the best crowds that you've seen all year in terms of, just how electric it was in Riverside?
Right. Yeah. We don't like pack the barn every night or whatever, but last Saturday, when we got into it in the third period and we started scoring 2 goals and quick on in the third period, so the fans really got going. They all loved it, and we ended up scoring that third goal with like a minute and a half left, I think, in the third period, and that was like the loudest I've ever heard it there in my full 2 years I've been here. So it was awesome. It was a great atmosphere.
How much of that do you guys feel on the bench? Because obviously when you're sitting on the bench, your mind is on the ice. You are focused on what you're doing. How much of the crowd, though, really bleeds in and kind of affects your emotions a little bit on the bench? Right.
So you don't really hear anything specific, but you do hear a lot of noise. So I think when you're on the bench, it helps you get up and get the boys going. So that's a really big part of our game, is to have everybody in the game every single night. Even on the bench, you're always talking to everybody else what we could do better, what we can do in other situations. So the crowd really does help us out and stay positive when we're on the bench.
Well, I think we're going to see one of the largest crowds of the year coming up for the next home game in February for Paint the Rink Pink Night. That's the next home game. So the guys are going on the road for the next 5 games, but they are back February 2nd. That's a Saturday. Tickets are available now. You know how this goes. We're already selling tickets at all of the Bruins vendors, games people play, Hy-Vee, Holiday Inn, and Jim's Marketplace. They all have their tickets already, and they are selling them. We are selling them quickly. As a matter of fact, we had an event last night, a pop-up party, which we'll go into a little bit later on the other side. So stay tuned, because we got plenty more coming with Garrett Dahm. We're going to talk a little bit about Paint the Rink Pink and what the guys have planned without giving away too much, plus just the atmosphere and a little bit more about Garrett, where he's from, what makes him tick, and what's going on. This is the Austin Bruins Show on AM 1480 Welcome back inside the Austin Bruins show. TJ Chillot joined by my special guest co-host for the week, Garrett Dahm. And honestly, Garrett, I think that song might be older than you. When were you born?
2000.
Yeah, that's definitely older than you. I wasn't sure if Delamitri had put that song out in the early 90s or late 90s, so that's why I said it might be older than you. But I definitely know it was a 90s song, so I guarantee you that was older than you. But before we went to the break there, we were talking a little bit about Paint the Rink Pink Night, which is the Bruins' next home game on February 2nd. And when we went to break, we were talking a little bit. This is my first Paint the Rink Pink, so I don't know quite what to expect. I've heard from people, I've heard from fans, I've heard from, obviously, office staff and all that good stuff, what to expect. But you were kind of cluing me in a little bit about what happened. Do you remember what you were doing last year and what your skit was?
Yeah, last year I played musical chairs with about 5 of the other guys.
And you were telling me you came in second place, huh? You were almost the winner of the musical chairs event, huh?
Yeah, so me and Seth Bacon, it was a final chair, and we were going at it. There's actually a picture on the Austin Bruins social media account. We were going at it there for the last chair, and for about a good 10 to 15 seconds. So Seth actually muscled me out, but I still got second, so it was really fun.
One of the best things I've ever seen, and I don't know if I've ever said this on air, last year when I was working in the Southern Professional Hockey League, we went to Macon, Georgia, and they did a musical chairs during the intermission, and the prize, which I can't believe was for an intermission game, was a year's supply of Krispy Kreme donuts. Have you ever had Krispy Kreme donuts?
Yes, they're awesome.
God, they are just absolutely amazing. So it was a year's supply would go to the winner. It was the most brutal thing I've ever seen. They were playing with like the metal chairs that had those metal feet to them, and one girl like yanked another girl down by her hair like from the back, and another girl, she like took the chair leg in the face. Like, I'm pretty sure someone was bleeding at the end of that. But to be honest with you, for Krispy Kreme donuts, yeah, I think I would get a little crazy. But you mentioned Seth Bacon, and he currently is playing in the NA3HL with our friends the Rochester Grizzlies, and you're going to make a swing up there to the game tonight, huh?
Yeah, a couple of us guys are going to go out there. We're going to hit Chick-fil-A before we go out there, which is a huge part about going out there because we all love it and we don't have one here in Austin. But, going to the Rochester games, they're always fun. They always give a good competition to the other team, and they're fun to watch.
Yeah, we've said it ad nauseum, I think, at this point, how the Grizzlies did a great job of really taking that atmosphere that's here in Austin and duplicating it in Rochester. They have a game tonight, 7:05, against the Wilmer Warhawks up there at the Rochester Rec Center. So tickets are on sale for that. You just got to swing on in and pop in. You might run into to Garrett. Who else is going out with you,
Me, Andy Willis, I'm pretty sure. Joseph Winkleman will be there. Lane Krenzen might be there. So there's a couple of the guys.
A couple guys that have some clout and have something behind their name going up to the game. That's really cool. It's I was there last week. Unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest showing, but for a Wednesday night, for something to do when you have, it's the middle of the week, and especially with the fact the Bruins are going to be on the road for a while, you might not get the opportunity to see any home hockey. This is an awesome opportunity. Head on up to the Rochester Rec Center tonight. 7:05 puck drop for them against the Wilmer Warhawks. So going back a little bit to Paint the Rink Pink and some of the skits and stuff like that. Have you guys thought about what you're doing yet this year? Are you starting to get the wheels moving?
Yeah, I mean, some guys think about stuff they're going to do early on, but this 10-hour bus ride up to Minot will really kick things off to get guys going on what they're going to do. I think me and my 2 other roommates might have an idea on what we're going to do, but we don't want to say anything yet.
One of your other roommates, because you currently are with Joe Mishak and Arvid Henriksen. Now, Arvid's brand new to the team, and he's brand new within the last month or so. So did you guys have to clue him in on what Paint the Rink Pink is? Because Joe obviously knows what it was. He participated last year. So is that totally, just a shock for someone like Arvid?
Yeah, I think in the USHL they do other stuff like this, but I don't think he's ever participated in a paint the rink with skits after. So he'll definitely have a good time out there. It'll be funny.
Yeah, I'm excited to see because, like I said, I never had the opportunity to see this. So you guys getting involved and having a good time is something that's gonna be a lot of fun. And and it was something that I was saying before when we were in the middle of the break. There was that a lot of times when sometimes when you ask players to do something a little extra, they're not always all that excited to do it. But when you talk about Paint the Rink Pink Night, your eyes genuinely light up. You say it's a lot of fun to go out there with your guys and have fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing that and seeing what you guys have in store. That's on February 2nd 2019. That's unbelievably 3 weeks away. January is almost over. That's pretty crazy to think about. But up first, it's 2 big games against Minot, and I know you guys have been practicing hard. I can hear you. And this is what I told Keenan. When I can hear you guys in the office, when I can hear pucks clanging off the glass from inside the office when I'm trying to do work and I have to put headphones on, I know you guys are working hard. It's been a pretty rough week for you guys on the ice, huh?
Yeah, these are 2 big games. This whole second half is really tough, and we want to get a good spot, hopefully to get into playoffs, so get some home ice advantage. So these last couple months or few months here, we got to go hard at it, especially in practice, to get everybody else better.
Do you have like a favorite team to play against? I have favorite teams that we play against because I prefer the way their booth is set up, and I prefer the amenities that you get, from a broadcasting standpoint. But do you have like favorite teams to go on the road and play because you play, particularly well against, or you like the way the locker room is, you feel comfortable there, it's close to home? Not that anything really gets close to Illinois, but, is there anything, do you have favorite teams that we play against?
Right. I mean, this year I'm kind of doing pretty well against Brookings, their team. They're not the best team, but I do have a couple goals against them, a couple points against them as well. But, Aberdeen is one that, for both years that I've been here, has been a team that we love to play against. We love to hate those guys, and those are really good games as there were last weekend as well. So that's a team that even their atmosphere there in Aberdeen is very intense, and they really get into it. So we love playing there and against them.
I'm glad you actually brought up Aberdeen, because those are the opponents after Minot. It's 2 in Minot, then 2 in Aberdeen, the one against the Magicians on Friday night, February 1st, and then back at home. So I keep saying the Bruins are on the road for the next 5. Minot, Aberdeen, Minnesota Magicians, in that order, until they return back to Riverside. So that's pretty cool. So, we talk about, the rivalry, and I think the rivalry really ignited this past weekend with the 2 games there, not only between what was going on the ice, but just some of the social media banter between teams and all this good stuff. I think the Aberdeen series, and the fact that we're going to be cramming 8 games against them in the last 4 months of the 3 months of the season, really. You can't count April as a full month. It's only 2 games before the regular season, but that's going to be really tough. And right now, they're one of the hottest teams they are the hottest team in the league. There's no mincing words on that one. So that's pretty cool. I always wondered if players have, if they feel on their game a little more when they play a certain team because of a certain scenario or a certain situation along those lines. So, committed to Mercyhurst. That was the big news for those of you who just joining us. TJ Chillot joined by Garrett Dahm here in studio on AM 1480 KAUS, the Austin Bruins show. Committed to Mercyhurst. You're the 7th player on the team to commit, and that's got to be big news. I mean, I'm sure your family is just really pumped for you.
Yeah. Whenever they offered me there when I was at Mercyhurst, they told me to take a breath, go downstairs and into the lobby and call my mom and my dad. And that was the first thing that I did. Those are the first 2 guys, the first 2 people that I really wanted to know. They've supported me throughout everything, thick and thin. When I played in St. Louis, the rink wasn't always that close. Most of the time, 45 minutes away. And before I was 16, they had to take me. They worked in St. Louis as well, so they always had to come back, pick me up in Illinois, and then take me out to St. Louis again. So those are the first 2 people, my biggest supporters, that I wanted to know about the big news.
Have they had the chance to get up and see any games this year and catch you in Austin?
Yeah. My mom and dad both have. Sometimes they'll only come up for the Saturday game because they can't take off work for Friday, but it's only about a 6.5-hour drive, so they try to make their way up to Austin as much as possible.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Make a weekend out of it anyway. Catch the game Saturday night, stick around. Do you get a chance to see him and hang out with him like on Sunday, that kind of thing, and just, get some mom and dad time? Right,
yeah. So sometimes before the game on Saturday or something, I'll hang out with them, but then Sunday morning we'll definitely go get breakfast at Kenny's. I
was going to ask you if you had a spot.
Yeah. Kenny's is definitely the spot for our family to go to. It's a really good place to go have some breakfast and talk. So we talk about the games and what's going on at home and stuff along those lines. So it's a good time to have them up here.
Is this, your junior career anyway? That's the first time that you've been away from home for majority of everything. I mean, you grew up, you played AAA at home, and then all of a sudden you're in Austin and you're living on your own, and that was the first time for you.
Yeah, it's my first time. Austin's a good spot for that too. Everybody's pretty welcoming, and I ended up going to the high school my first year here last year. So stuff like that is always good to do whenever you're here alone, to get out of the house and don't get too homesick.
Yeah, and you know what? It's going to make things easier for college, right? You're already used to it. A lot of kids, that's the first time they leave the house is college. You've already had that experience. So going from, Illinois to Austin, now you can stretch that out. Erie, Pennsylvania, which Pennsylvania is an awesome state. I've never been to Erie. I'm from Pennsylvania, but I've never had the chance to go to Erie. That would have been about 7-hour drive from where I was. Erie is all the way up at the tip. Obviously, you know that. But for our listeners listening who don't know PA all that much, it's all the way in the northwest corner. And where I'm from is the far east, center east, near Philadelphia on the other side. So I've heard really nice things. I mean, that campus has to be absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, when I went there, that was a big thing on my list, is how their campus was and how the town around Mercyhurst University is. And we drove around downtown, and I loved everything about it. The campus was beautiful, and they still have a bunch of buildings that were there when they first opened up as a college. So they have a building called Old Main, which is still one of the first buildings. So that's pretty cool to see that kind of stuff.
As a matter of fact, there's an Old Main in Penn State as well. I never went to college, but I had plenty of friends who did, and I would always go visit them. But there is an Old Main at a lot of colleges, like in your quad area and stuff like that. Have you already kind of picked out, like, I'm definitely going to be hanging out there, or that's a cool spot, I'm going to make sure I check that out? Have you already got like a list running in your head?
Yeah, somewhat. Whenever we walked around, there's certain things that you really think are cool, and you want to, spend some more time there when you're there.
A lot of people, I think, are surprised at, Mercyhurst is a small college by, not a lot of people know about it. It's not your Michigans. It's not your big name schools. So they're really surprised about the D1 aspect of it. It's a really competitive school when it comes to hockey, isn't it?
Yeah. So their only Division I sports are men's ice hockey and women's ice hockey. So they really do take their hockey seriously up there.
What does that tell you? You know what I mean? When your only Division I schools are hockey, obviously they take things pretty seriously. And I'm trying to pull up something right here because I know that this year the Hobey Baker Award finalists actually just went out a couple days ago, which for those of you who don't know much about college hockey, that's kind of like the Heisman Trophy of college hockey. And there's actually a guy in the finalists who is from Mercyhurst. He's the team captain right now. I can't think of his name. Maybe you know him off the top of your head.
Barack is his last name.
There you go.
There's actually two guys there. There's one forward named Barack, and there's another guy named Joey Duszak. He's a defenseman, and he's like leading all of Division I in points, or top 5 in points for defensemen. So, yeah, there's two guys up there in Mercyhurst that are nominated to win that.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, so whenever somebody says, it's a small school, it's like Miami of Ohio. Everybody kind of forgets that that's a huge hockey school. Everybody knows the Notre Dames and the Michigans and the Michigan States and the Minnesotas and, Minnesota Duluth and all that stuff, but you kind of forget about some of the smaller schools that really can pound out some good hockey players, including Mercyhurst, and hopefully you're the next one. I mean, right now the Bruins have this year, there's actually 3 guys who are nominated for that Hobey Baker that formerly were in Austin, between Nico Sturm out at Clarkson and Jake Kiley out at Clarkson, as well as Josh Wilkins in Providence. So those 3 guys, we're hoping to see Garrett Dahm's name in a couple years as part of the Hobey Baker finalists.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely would be. Well, we got more with Garrett Dahm here in just a bit. We got to take a real quick break, and then he's going to join us for the third, and that'll be his final segment of the night before he heads up to the Rochester game. But I'll take you home for that fourth and final segment. So stay tuned. We got plenty more Austin Bruins hockey and whatever else comes to mind between myself and Garrett Dahm. So welcome back inside the Austin Bruins show on AM 1480 KAUS. My name is TJ Chillot, voice of the Austin Bruins, joined by my special co-host, my special guest co-host for this week, Garrett Dahm. And, Garrett, last commercial break when we came back, I kind of poked fun at you because you hadn't been born yet by the time Delamitri came out with their song Roll to Me. I went the other direction. I went with Bruce Springsteen, Dancing in the Dark. This song came out before I was born. So I don't want to pick on you. It's equally... I'm an equal opportunity person when it comes to that kind of thing. That Dancing in the Dark, I did have to Google it. 1984. I wasn't born until late 1987. So that's how that goes. So one thing I want to talk to you about a little bit, and this is something that's really super cool that the Austin Bruins are doing, and it's just another one of the billion reasons why Austin is just so unique at the junior level and just such a place to be, is for those of you who may not know, there's a pending documentary out there that's coming about the team and these guys and their desires to get up into the D1 and play, just like Garrett, who committed earlier this week, and what that takes. And it's kind of a blend of Hard Knocks mixed with what was that NHL show that they did for a while there? Then they jumped on the teams. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But I want to talk a little bit about that because you made an awesome cameo in the trailer. And for those of you who want to see the trailer, go ahead and go to the Bruins Facebook page. It's pinned to the top right there. It'll link you to our Indiegogo campaign where we're still looking for funding. So you'll have the opportunity, if you can, send us a little bit of... well, not us, but the production company, send them a little bit of a donation. You get some cool prizes back, hang with the directors, hang with the guys, that kind of thing. But you made a really cool cameo, Garrett, in the trailer in regards to talking with your billet mom about your pants. But I kind of thought I understood what you were talking about. It sounded like you got a new suit and the pants were a little too long. What was the story with that?
Right. So my mom got me a new suit. And she told me to go make sure I didn't need to get it hemmed or anything, but I actually just didn't go and do that. So when I put it on, I wasn't too sure, so I wanted to ask my billet mom, but she said that everything looked pretty good, so I ended up not having to get my suit hemmed.
All right, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You know what the rule is for a jacket, though? And if your jacket's too long, you know how you tell? You make a fist on your side, and if your jacket comes up to where your knuckles are, then your jacket's the right length. If it goes past them or it comes up too high, then your jacket's too short. Right. See, I have that problem because I'm all legs. I'm 5'11", and about 5'10" of it is legs, and then the rest of it is the short, stubby torso that I have. So I had to learn that pretty quickly. But how cool was that having the cameras around? They were here in November for the military night, and that weekend in a series against Minot, coincidentally. Was it distracting? Was it cool? What was it like?
I mean, I think some guys got a little bit distracted by it, but they ended up coming to our house, and me and Joe had no idea that they were there. We always have the game day ritual where we play music throughout the stereo, throughout the house, and, when we're in the shower, just to get us going, to get our mind back on the game. But when we went upstairs, they were actually there and filming us. So you just try to just be yourself, and me and my billet mom get along pretty well, so we always joke about everything. So, but at the rink, I don't really think it gets too distracting. I mean, they're always in the locker room, but Steve just gives us his normal talks, and we always listen, and we're not really focused too much on the cameras, as we shouldn't be, because we got a big game in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And back then, things were totally different with the Central. Minot was playing pretty strong hockey at that point. They've gotten into a little bit of a skid, not saying that that's going to make this weekend any easier going on the road over there, but just a good thing of note. The last time the Bruins were out there, 4-0 win, it was a huge game, man. I remember coming back on the bus after that win, and you guys were pumped. It was a 9-hour ride. I'm pretty sure you guys were just amped on adrenaline for 8 hours of that 9-hour ride. So hopefully we can see a little bit more of that this weekend, because I think you are just the type of guy that if I was scripting some kind of Hard Knocks type show, you are one of the guys that I would absolutely focus on. You, Devon, let me think of some other guys. Joe Mishak's he's a pretty vocal guy and pretty funny. Who would you pick? Like, if you were directing something and you wanted the quirky guys on the team, who would you call out?
I would probably go to Lane Krenzing. He's always goofing around and joking around, and but at the same time, he can be serious. So he's a guy that I would probably go to.
That's funny you say that because last night we were at the B&J as part of our new pop-up parties. We're going to actually have an announcement on where our pop-up party is going to be next week. That's coming up here in the next couple of days once we roll that out. But we're at this pop-up party, and the whole goal is to let the guys get out and mingle with the crowd and mingle with some of our fans and hang out with, give sign autographs and sell some Paint the Rink Pink tickets and that kind of thing. And I took a picture of everybody and I tried to hold it up, over my head, and Krenzen caught me doing it. So naturally, while everybody else is in a normal conversational state, nobody's looking at me, here's Lane cheesing hard right in the center of the picture, like, I know what you're doing. And of course, that was the only picture I got, so I had to post that up. And there he is, right in the middle. So it's funny because I don't get the chance to see that. I always see Captain Lane and business casual Lane. I don't get to see someone letting loose. But you're a guy that's known to let loose. Tell me a little bit more about your ritual, if you don't mind, on game days. You guys just what kind of music are you blasting throughout the house? And my God, your poor billet family.
Yeah, well, Joe kind of has a playlist. I kind of let him do his own thing, but I kind of like the music that he plays, so we put it over the stereo in the basement, and so that's one thing. We'll be in the we'll take a shower, we'll have the music going, and while we're getting dressed, we'll have the music going, and then we'll go upstairs, we'll quiet down the music a little bit so we can talk to our billets and such. But then we eat our pregame meal. Usually it's like grilled chicken and rice or grilled chicken and some pasta. Pretty plain.
Something high in carbs, keep that high in protein, keep that energy up.
Right, yeah. So that's usually our pregame meal, and then that's around 4:15 or so, and then we'll head out, and we always go to Caribou, get a little coffee before we head to the rink, and then it's just a lot of coaches talks and talks between your teammates, and just get your mind back on the game and ready for the game.
It amazes me that you can go to Caribou and get a coffee before a game. Like, no, I need to be in a place where I have easy access to the restroom 2 hours after I have a coffee, not on the ice, just completely breaking it down and just going all out. I can't believe that you do that. What do you and Joe have to argue over the music? Do you guys have similar tastes in music, or do you guys get no, hold on, no, I'm playing something right now? Like, is it a battle of Bluetooth phones? Like, you kick him off and take over, or what?
No, usually like on game days, especially, I like the music that he plays, but I'm kind of a big country music guy, and Joe is not so much. They don't really have a lot of that over there in Europe and Czech Republic, is what he says. So he doesn't like that. So if we're in the car or something and I'm playing country music, not on a game day, he kind of goes quiet, and we joke about that. But definitely on game days, he has it before. When we're in the shower and stuff like that. And then when we get in the car, I'll take it over, and we always play like the same types of music, same genre of music. So usually gets us going.
It surprises me that you're a country guy because you're not really from the South. I mean, St. Louis is Midwest. It's not the South. Right. So it surprises me. If you would have, said, you got to bet real cash, what kind of music does Garrett listen to? It's not going to be country. That was not where I would have went. I'm surprised by it. Come see me. I listen to country on occasion, and that was probably from my time down south in Mississippi. It kind of converted me, but that's pretty cool. First of all, that's going to do it for your segment here. You got to get on the road and catch the Grizzlies game here tonight. I want to thank you for coming out here. I wanted to say congratulations on the D1 commitment to Mercyhurst, and go get them this weekend, man. That's got to be a load off your mind now that you got the college portion of your life kind of, at least the next step planned out. Now you can just go out there and just go, crazy on the ice and play your game. That's got to be a big relief for you. So congratulations, and go get them this weekend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. That was Garrett Dahm, forward for the Austin Bruins. We got plenty more of the Austin Bruins show coming up. It's going to be me. I'm going to round out the final 15 minutes here and get you all set up for this big series against Minot coming up. Plus, we'll touch base a little bit more with Paint the Rink Pink, which is coming up on February 2nd. Don't want to miss any of that. Stay tuned. This is the Austin Bruins show on AM 1480 KAUS. We'll be right back. Welcome back back inside the Austin Bruins show on AM 1480 KAUS. TJ Chillot, voice of the Austin Bruins, here with you. And I went with a little California Dreamin' on our return simply because of the fact that that's what I and the rest of the Bruins are going to be doing this weekend as we head to Minot, North Dakota. Last I looked, Friday night's low, -11. I know that's probably not much for you guys here in Austin who are kind of used to that all the time. But you know what? I was in Pennsylvania for 29 years of my life, and I spent a year last year down south, just outside of Memphis. I'm not ready and used to this cold yet. So I went with a little California Dreaming because that is definitely what I will be doing this weekend as the Bruins take on the Minotauros for the first time in the 2019 portion of the calendar year. And, you know, the Bruins kind of struggling just a little bit in regards to this 2019 portion, still without a regulation win in 2019, but a huge point gained last weekend in one of the best games I've seen the Bruins play in terms of when you're down and what seems like you're down and out for the count, to be able to come back and score those 3 goals against Aberdeen on Saturday and really light up that arena. And it was a great turnout and a great crowd to really help the guys get back into it. Unfortunately, they couldn't pull one out in the shootout. So I think going on the road to Minot this weekend is going to be something that might benefit them because this is a very strong team when it comes to being on the road. The Bruins just, they don't translate at home just right yet, and they'll get their stride. But right now, second place in the division. They're 10 points behind Aberdeen, 5 points ahead of the Wilderness, and 7 points ahead of both Bismarck and Minot as we go into this weekend. The Bruins, by the way, I had to pull up the sheet, 13-2-0-1 on the road. So that means 14 out of their 16 games this year, they've gotten at least a point, 13 of them being victories outright in regulation on the road. So that's a huge stat that's going to play into this weekend. And the Bruins, on paper, definitely the better team. I think we've seen that all season long. They've got 2 goaltenders still in the top 10 in the NAHL as far as goals against average is concerned. Dante Sheriff, 7th in the league in overall scoring with his 41 points. Not to mention, you know, a power play that's really come on strong as of late. They now have the second-ranked power play and penalty killing unit in the Central Division. They are 4th in the league in penalty kill and 6th in the league in power play. And that was a power play that started the season a little slow. It took them a while to get going, but now they are moving, and they're 3 for 21 against Minot on the power play this year, and they've done pretty darn good on the PK, only allowing 2 goals on 23 opportunities against Minot this season. So we'll see if that can kind of continue here as we go forward. One thing that the Bruins did end up taking first place in, which is kind of a notorious category after this past weekend, was penalty minutes. They're now the most penalized team in the Central Division with 678, but when you earn well over 100 points on your own in one game, that's going to happen. I mean, things like that, that'll narrow, it'll end up shifting out, and guys will end up keeping their cool as we go through here, and more of these games mean even more through the home stretches, positioning for playoffs and all that good stuff ends up being on the line. So we'll see what happens. But Bruins and Minotauros this weekend, both Friday and Saturday. It's a late start on Friday. Actually, it's a late start on both days, but it's going to be a later start on Friday, 8:05 p.m. puck drop time. We'll be taking the air right here on AM 1480 KAUS for that game. It'll be 7:55. We'll be on the air for that one, for that 8:05 drop. And then Saturday, it's a 7:35 puck drop. That one you can catch on Hockey TV. We'll take the air somewhere around 7:25 or so and get you all set up for that one. But these are going to be the 7th and 8th meetings between the two teams this year, with just 2 more left, and that's going to be in a couple weeks. It'll be Minot on the 15th and 16th of February. They'll be coming to town here in Austin, so that'll wrap up the series. Right now, Austin is 3-3-0-0 against Minot this year. Minot technically leads the season series. They're 3-1-0, and by virtue, they technically have 7 points against Austin, so that gives them a little bit of an edge, but we'll see how that kind of shakes out, because Minot has not been playing well as of late. Right now, they've got a record of 19, 16, 1, and 0 for 39 points. They're tied for fourth in the division, but the way things shake out, because they've played 2 more games than Bismarck gets fourth place, even though they have the same amount of points, but they've played 2 less games, so they get the nod there. So Minot right now near the bottom of the pack in the Central Division, so we'll see what Minot team comes out. They also, have had 4 straight games without a win. Now, they do have an overtime loss in there that's gained them a point, but 4 straight games without a win so far for Minot. And as I take a look at one thing that always intrigues me, and it was something that I talked to assistant coach Keenan Kelly about off radio, off air last week during one of the breaks, is I love looking at what teams do after specific periods. What their record is leading after 1 or after 2, or being tied after 1, or trailing after 1 or 2, or what have you be. But this Minot team is not a very good team when they were trailing at any point in the game. When they trail after 1 game, they are 3-12, 1-0. When they're trailing after 2 periods in the game, they are 3-16, 1-0. So that's an opportunity for Austin to really jump on top, because when the Bruins are leading after a period, they end up this season, they are 10-0-0-1. That means every game that they have the lead after 20 minutes of play, they have gotten at least a point, 10 of them winning and getting both points. On the other side, leading after 2, the Bruins are a perfect 13-0-0-0. So for the Bruins, the story here, I think, especially after the heartbreaking loss that they had last weekend against Aberdeen, the story is going to be come out, get an early goal, and play physical to start the game. Both games, Friday and Saturday night. Make sure you get that early start, get out there, and get that early lead, because it bodes well for you, because you played so well all season long with the lead after 1 or after 2 periods. And on the other side, Minot, not a very good team when they are trailing in those situations. For the Bruins, too, they're 13-3-0-2 this year when scoring first. So get that early goal, get out there, take a lead, and control the game at your pace of play, much like they did Friday night against Aberdeen. Now, unfortunately, Aberdeen was able to come back and kind of had their way with the Bruins in the second half of that game on Friday night and ended up winning 6-4, but they came out and took control of that game. They went up 1-0. Aberdeen clawed back and tied it at 1. Bruins took the lead 2-1. Aberdeen came right back and tied it up at 2. The Bruins said, no, we're not going down without a fight again. We're going to get the 3rd goal. And that, I think, is the mentality that you need to have just this time against Minot. Try and keep that lead as you go forward through the game. And I'm sure they were thinking about that against Aberdeen too. This isn't rocket science, but when you have the lead, keep it, right? That's kind of common sense. And I'm sure that's something that they were thinking about and talking about. But this time, the execution and taking on a Minot team that's kind of been having or just as rough of a 2019 as the Bruins have had. This is a huge weekend for Austin, because we mentioned after the Minot Minotauros 2 games on the road, they played 2 more on the road, both at Aberdeen. Those are going to be just mentally, physically, emotionally draining after the 2 games that we just had this past weekend in Austin. The rivalry is there. We talked with Garrett Dahm a little bit about that just a couple moments ago. So after those 2 games against Aberdeen, then they take on the Minnesota Magicians for a home-and-home series. So it's going to be absolutely crazy going down the stretch with mostly division games. After that game on the 2nd, paint the Rink Pink night, February 2nd. After that game on the 2nd, the Bruins are all entirely from here on out divisional opponents. Those 2 games against the Magicians will wrap up the out-of-division portion of their schedule, and everything will be Bismarck, Minot, Wilderness, 2 more against Brookings. I don't have the full schedule in front of me, but it's going to be crazy as we get going. So I want to leave you all with one more tidbit of information, and that's going to be our next pop-up party. It's going to be Tuesday at Torgy's Live from 5 to 7. Torgy's Live, one of our better sponsors. They host the official Bruins after party after every Bruins game. That's our official post-game stop. So Torgy's Live, Tuesday from 5 to 7. Come on out, meet the guys, get some autographs, and, of course, get your Paint the Rink Pink tickets if you haven't already. They are on sale right now at all the Bruins vendors, including Games People Play, Hy-Vee, Holiday Inn, and Jim's Marketplace. So that's what's going on with the Bruins. They've got 2 gigantic games coming up this weekend against Minot. coming back home to practice and sleep in their own beds during the week, but then they go right back out on the road the following week for 2 more against Aberdeen, and then a home-and-home series against the Magicians with that Saturday game, their 6th game from here at home. Paint the rink pink. Get your tickets now. You can get them with us. You can call up the office. You can stop by and get your vendor pricing, which is what is recommended. Make sure we get that place packed because it's going to be a great time. It's going to be a lot of fun. I want to thank you all for joining us, the 2nd edition of the Austin Bruins Show on AM 1480 KAUS. My name was TJ Chillot, voice of the Austin Bruins. We'll talk to you all this weekend right here